A long time ago, there existed a small village off the coast of southern China. This small village relied on fish to feed everyone. Unfortunately, the fishermen of the village were having a tough time catching enough fish for their families. One of these men was a lone fisherman named Ren. Ren was a young man filled with hopes and dreams for his future. He would go by the shore every day to try his luck and would leave at dawn after a full day of work with a smile from ear to ear, even if he went home empty-handed. Little did he know he had an admirer who watched from afar. The young man lived in a small home, barely large enough for even one person, but he always kept his head up high, knowing that one day he would be something great. Little did Ren know, his fate would soon find him. On an especially warm summer day, Ren was visited by a strange new figure. It was a woman, dressed in fine blue silk and beautiful sapphire jewelry. The woman stood tall and full of life as she introduced herself to him as Naia. He was kind to her and asked if he knew her and how long she had been at the village. She told him he might, and that she was there longer than he could imagine. She asked him about his life and what kept him going. He said that he wanted to be able to provide for his village one day and care for his future family. The woman let out a small chuckle as his selflessness touched her. Soon after, Ren received a strong bite on his rod. He fought hard and finally pulled out the biggest fish he had ever seen. He turned out to the woman to show her the fish, but she had vanished as quickly as she had appeared. Ren returned home with his bounty and ate like a king. He gave most of his fish to one of the children in the village, seeing how he had more than enough for himself. Ren did not realize that his life had just changed. Naia visited Ren every day for years to come. They shared stories, laughed, and grew to become best friends. Ren found himself catching more and more fish each day. He earned enough money selling his extra fish at the market and was able to build himself a beautiful home by the shore. But one day, Ren seemed down. Naia asked him what bothered him. He told her that although his life is better than it has ever been, many in his village still struggled with catching enough to last them the next day. Naia was quiet and in much thought, as she told him not to worry, as his heart will earn the village the food they need to care for their families. She left Ren confused that day by what she meant. The very next day, Ren was surprised to see the fishermen of the village going home with enough fish to catch to last them the month. He looked towards the shore and saw the woman watching over the village. He smiled towards her as she gave him a wink and walked away. The village saw more food than they could ever catch. As the years went by, the village continued to grow and evolve to fit the increasing number of people. Giant buildings and skyscrapers were built along factories made to process the tons of fish coming in. Ren became a millionaire and lived in the finest mansion in all of the city. He gained a love for the money and began to want more to fuel his appetite. The shore became a dock for the various ships coming in and out of the city, which was now one of the most prosperous cities in all of China. Ren walked to the dock when he saw someone sitting by the edge. It was Naia. She looked older, and her clothes were worn. He was pleased to see her, but she had a worried expression. He asked her what was wrong and if she was okay. She responded by saying that she grows weak and that the ocean is getting hurt by the city. Ren scoffed and told her to look at all the ships coming in with more fish every day. She looked back at the city and told him to look at the garbage on the sidewalk, at the children running in the streets, and bathing in dirty water. He told her that he couldn't worry about everyone and that they had to learn to care for themselves, just as he did. Naia's worry turned to rage as she struggled to stand and get up close to Ren and warn him of where his greed and selfishness would take him. Ren grew angry and told her he didn't need her advice as he stormed back to his home. As the village continued to grow, factories released more and more oil into the shore, turning the once blue ocean into a dark and lifeless gray. The fishing ships went further into sea to catch fish but soon began to run out of luck. Less and less fish came in. Ren, Now the CEO of the fishing business in the city is informed of the lack of fish, so he sends for every ship to be sent out and to return in the following month. After the month passes by, the eager city waits for the fresh stock, but are shocked to find that every ship came out empty-handed. Ren is then told the worst news yet. His child has grown ill. He rushes to the hospital, now an older man, to see his son in a hospital bed. The doctor tells him that the water by the shore had sickened him after he spent the day playing by the docks. Ren looked down to see dozens of children, all with similar symptoms as his son. He realized his mistake and looked down at him with tears in his eyes as he told him that it was all his fault. He turned to the dock after many years in search of Naia, but she was nowhere to be seen. After hours of searching for her, he gave up. He fell onto his knees and he yelled out to the ocean, apologizing, asking for forgiveness, but with no response. He knew that it was up to him and only him to fix his errors. He ordered that every factory get shut down and destroyed. He planned to turn those empty lots into fields to grow crops. After many years of changing the city, the now old and wiser Ren walked over to the now abandoned dock. He looked down at the water as he thought of his past, when he saw a small fish looking up at him. Ren was in shock. He cried out tears of joy and apologized to the little fish, to all the damage he had caused. Ren then reached into his pocket and pulled out a carrot. He broke off a piece of the carrot and gave it to the small fish. Each day, Ren would return to the dock to feed the little fish. Until one day the fish returned with a whole school of his friends. Ren brought his grandsons to the dock with him and taught them to feed the fish. Each day, more and more fish came to the dock, but never did anyone in the city think to catch them. No, they simply fed and admired them. Ren learned to admire nature and its beauty. He saw just how much they needed each other to prosper. On one faithful day, Ren went to feed the little fish, but he couldn't find it. Suddenly, Ren felt a gentle palm on his shoulder. It was Naia, looking just the way she did when he first met her. She helped Ren to stand, and she reached out her hand without saying a word, but with a grateful smile on her face as she nodded to him in approval. He walked with her along the shore until the warmth of the sun took them into his arms. Ren's grandson found a journal by the dock when looking for him. Ren had written everything about his life in that journal, highlighting his mistakes and how he can help others from making the same ones as he did. In the back of the journal, he dedicated the journal to his family and mentioned his grandson, telling him how it was up to him to continue to show people how to care for nature and the importance of giving back. The end.